You might think that simply buying and holding a home is a great method to becoming rich. And the idea is simple enough. Just buy at the right time and sell when appreciation has done its job. Right.
And as many have noticed by now, there's these huge private equity funds buying thousands of middle-class homes en masse. So then the idea of buying homes has to be working, right? And the answer to that is kinda.
But for the rest of us, and even for most of the people investing in these large equity funds, the main benefit to buying all these houses is not getting richer, but staying wealthy.
So, what home ownership really does, with its sprawling neighborhoods and townhomes, is lock you into your current socioeconomic level. And the richer you are, the more normal homes you need in order to maintain it.
I've closed hundreds of deals, been the go-to broker for national funds, ultra-high net worth clients, own a sizable investment-based brokerage, and an investment company that acquires multifamily communities. And through this company, Broker Bob, I bring you the truth as best I can show it, because real estate and its related power dynamics, it shapes our world. And one of the most powerful real estate models on the planet is the one that is encased by a white picket fence.
So let's say that you have bought a house with a mortgage worth $300,000 all in. And you've got it on good information from your real estate broker that this place is about to appreciate big time over the next 5 years, which is when you were thinking of moving out anyway. And guess what? Everything your real estate broker tells you comes true. Your $300,000 home is now worth $1.3 million. So you decide to sell, snagging you a gain of $1 million. Hey! That's so much money that it even bumps you up a level on the socioeconomic totem pole. Take that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They can't keep up with that. You got this. Except for maybe the fact that they can. More on that in a minute.
After selling your house, you take stock of your winnings. First thing, it costs you about 10% of the new list price to sell your home, so your amount realized is $900,000. Then the tax man comes knocking for his capital gains, but you own the property for more than 2 years and you're married. So $500,000 of that $900,000 is exempt under tax code number 121, leaving you with $400,000 taxable since you and your spouse make more than $83,350 a year, putting it to where you pay 20% of that $400,000. And then let's say another 5% from your state and local, depending, bringing you, in this case, to $800,000. But selling your house did break a piggy bank the size of your house. Because one of the best parts of home ownership is that each month more and more of your monthly mortgage payment goes to equity. That's your money. And after 5 years of steady payments, you've built about $200,000 in equity, which can be a car paid in full, bringing the total tally that you've made to $820,000 net, which is pretty epic.
So now, with your $820,000, you need to buy your next home, since living in your car isn't quite worth it. So you look around and find out all similar homes on market are relatively the same price as what you sold yours for. So, you end up moving into your new $820,000 home. That's because one of the most noted strengths of owning a home, its ability to appreciate with the market, is also what limits its absolute upside, at least when you only own one of them. What is that saying? A higher tide raises all boats? So even though your home more than quadrupled in price, you're still living at the same socioeconomic level, in a similar home, in a similar area, even if it's across the country. While this may lessen your excitement as a single-family homeowner, to the rich, who are buying them up in bulk and then selling them when it suits them for non-personal housing needs, this is a wonderful feature.
Let's talk about their situation for a moment. Deploying money into good investments is actually pretty difficult. Heck, it can actually be harder than making that money in the first place. And this only gets harder when you've got so much money that finding enough actually good investments becomes borderline impossible. Think about it. Finding 1 or 2 good investments, pretty doable. But finding 50? That is a real problem. So much so that many of them becomes just consumed by the never-ending necessity to place their money effectively, or else they may lose their status in the long run. The 3 ways they generally lose their wealth is through bad investments, inflation, and taxes. Also, in a world of constant change, business owners can't guarantee that their operations will still be viable in the next 5 years, let alone forever, making dependable, lower risk investments all the more valuable. However, the basic need for housing in this crazy world isn't going to go away and is something generally worth banking on, especially when you factor in the tax benefits of real estate and that housing essentially keeps up with inflation. And so, as a prudent person with a lot of money to deploy, you start buying single-family homes in bulk, because it's a relatively doable task if you know your craft and have the means.
But that is the Learjet crowd. Let's talk about how a person of normal means can turn home ownership to their advantage, instead of one of stagnation or even regression. First step, a little change in perspective. Let's back up 5 years ago when you decided to buy that house for $300,000. But now, let's say you didn't. You just kept renting. 5 years have passed, and now all the homes are $800,000. Well, that version of you is on the back foot, especially in a world of increasing inflation and interest rates. All of your housing expenses are instead going to your landlord. There's no equity, the rent only goes up at least as fast as inflation, and there's no tax benefits. Even if wages are going up a bit each year, many people are getting poorer, as indicated by this graph. See where we've passed the gray line, showing what many think of as staying the same? Therefore, the upside of home ownership might not put you on Forbes magazine by itself, but it safeguards you from spinning out on a bad trajectory. So the way you should think of home ownership and what homes can do for you as you begin to invest in them yourself is much like running on a treadmill. One where you make gains in your wealth if you're moving forward, and if you fall back.
Here are some methods that you can utilize with home ownership to where you could see actual gains in your wealth. Remember the scenario where you bought that house and then sold it for a huge gain, but then a big piece of it got eaten up by capital gains? This time, let's do something a little different. Instead, you refinance your primary residence and buy yourself a secondary home. You then make a choice. Move to the new home or stay. But no matter what you do, you need to make sure that the rent you would be getting from your now rental home brings positive cash flow. Now there's a lot of underwriting that goes into that part, and I will go into underwriting with a free spreadsheet and you can quickly get a rough idea of whether the property would cash flow. But for now, let's just go with cash flow is king.
It's good to be the king.
And that you want it to be positive. That way, if there's ever a downturn, your investment property is at least paying for itself and maybe taking the edge off of your own payments for your primary home. You then wait, maybe for another 3 to 5 years, but this time both of your properties are appreciating. And now that you're successfully making headway on growing your wealth, you will find yourself with a lot more options. For example, you can sell your primary home using the same tax breaks that I described earlier. Then you move into your rental and essentially pay off a huge chunk of your house and live on the relative cheap without so much of your mortgage payment going to interest, increasing your cash on hand, moving you forward. You can cash in by selling both homes and upgrading your house to the next level, but Keep in mind that if you do that, you're basically running in place yet again, but your house is a little nicer. Or you can refinance both of your houses and get yet another rental house. Some people do this all the way up to 10 houses, at which point everything changes. But you are zooming at this point. Or finally, you sell both and downgrade your house and live off the pot of money. This is something generally more useful for empty nesters or people who just don't want to be chained to the whole system anymore.
Do you want to become a real estate tycoon? Well, then you're gonna have to think bigger, which is exactly what my channel does. I'm looking at the macro levels of real estate. So click on that channel button because you don't even know these are the things that you need to be searching for. Or, okay, fine, just click on this video. Try it out.